everyone, welcome back. I'm OAK Swedish Whiskey Girl, and today we're here with a Japanese blended whiskey. This is a whiskey from Nikka called the Rare Old Super. And of course, Nikka is one of the two kind of biggest Japanese whiskey producers. And this specific blend contains a lot of malt from the Yuichi and Miyagikyo distilleries. And I believe it has a blend of whiskies, some that have been sherried and some of course have been from bourbon casks, and a little bit of peat to it as well. It is a non-age statement and it's bottled at 43% ABV, and it was in 1982 that Masataka Taketsuru sat down to create this blend as a memory to his beloved Rita, who passed away the year before in 1961. And it was made to represent his deep love for her. And of course, Masataka was the man who came over to Scotland to learn the art of making whiskey and then took it back to Japan, where he then worked for another company before he set up his own, which became Nikka. And Rita was the Scottish woman he fell in love with, and she came back to Japan with him. It's also said that when Masataka set out to start creating whiskey, he would bring home samples and Rita would try them and go, "No, this is not good enough, you have to go back and redo it." And that's how they kind of kept going until he'd made something that she thought had enough quality. But we are gonna, of course, have a look on the whiskey and start by having a little nose. Oh, it's a very different nose. It's deep and dense and quite humid straight away. It's like stepping into a cave. But if there was fruity aromas and some maybe baking going on in that cave as well. But it does have this kind of damp alcohol note that you could recognize perhaps from a cellar as well. It's just that a bit cavey. Like a little bit of pear aromas, a little bit of vanilla, like sweetness, but very, very damp and dense and quite heavy. It definitely has a big aroma, but it's almost tricky to say specifically what it is, except for that kind of dampness and the heavy notes. It does have like a maltiness alongside the fruitiness. It's like a fruity maltiness, I guess, but it's very intriguing. I thought it would be much lighter on the nose, but we'll of course have a little look on the palate and see what it is there. Kanpai. Quite murky. It does have that dense, damp feeling on the palate as well. And there's a really weird malty note on this one. It's spicy and dry, but the fruitiness around is quite juicy. I don't think I've ever came across this maltiness in any other whiskey. It's very, very different. Yeah, that maltiness is strange, and then it has a sweetness to it as well. But the sweetness is kind of underneath that malty notes, which makes my palate and my brain a little bit confused. I think the fruitiness makes it feel quite smooth and quite approachable, but it does have a weird note to it. Yeah, that malty note's quite bitter. But what is that? It's like a specific kind of spiciness. But it's almost like I would think that it wasn't something made from barley. I wouldn't guess that it was a whiskey because of that weird note. But it intrigues me. What is that? Because I recognize it. what? The nose is lovely now. It's quite fruity and quite sweet. Yeah, like opening a bag of hard candies, a little bit like that. Or like throat sweets, like if it was citrus throat sweets, because they have this kind of citrus note but also a little bit minty. It's almost like that malty note, because it's quite dry and spicy, makes me think of chili, because it's still burning on my tongue. And it's distracting me from the other aromas as well. No, it's like chili or like something spicy food, that kind of heat to it, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting this to be very approachable, very light. But it's no. This, I don't know how to describe this, but I think what it's like in my head, it's almost like a quite fruity but denser and heavier, maybe Speyside whiskey. But because the dominant flavour is this dry, spicy maltiness in the middle that makes me feel a little bit like chili, it's almost like numbing my tongue a bit. And I mean, this is a 43%, so I shouldn't be that sensitive to alcohol content, so I think it's more the flavour. But it's just so weird. And that same sensation as after you've been eating something like food that's hot or has chili in it, or a bit too much black pepper. It's just... I wasn't expecting this at all. Maybe Rita was a very spicy woman. The nose is lovely though. And I mean, the palate's intriguing because it's so weird. Yeah, the nose now is very vanilla, very fruity and easygoing, but still with that denseness and damp cave note. Maybe a bit mossy, like wet moss. And it has this note which is almost a bit like soap. So if you get soap in your mouth, you can feel this kind of bitterness and almost a bit floral note as well. It's mixing in with that kind of chili, malty note. Soap and chili. That's some weird tasting notes, but it's an interesting one for sure. You know what the finish is? It leaves this lingering sensation of when you've been to the dentist. I used to have braces, so I was at the dentist a lot. And you get this thing when they're done, you get to rinse your mouth, and it tastes this kind of, what's it called? Fluoride? Floor? In Swedish it's floor. And yeah, it leaves this kind of aftertaste, and that's kind of what I have on the finish now. This is a very strange whiskey and I love it. That is so much fun. I would of course love to hear what you think. Have you tried the Nikka Rare Old Super? Or perhaps another whiskey from Nikka? I would love to hear some more recommendations, as I haven't tried too many whiskies from them just yet. And of course, if you love what I'm doing here on YouTube and my other social channels, I would of course be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links the next time you're shopping with the Whisky Exchange, Master Malt or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. All the information is of course in the description here below, as well as links to my YouTube, my Instagram, my Patreon and my Teespring shop. All of your support means so incredibly much, and thank you to everyone who's supported so far. Every little really helps to be able to build this channel and of course my other channels. And of course a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon who keep following me in my whiskey journey. You guys are amazing. But as always, I hope you've all had an absolutely wonderful day. Slán bye.